Hey, good morning, all. Let me quiet the music down a little bit. So, our new format for getting ready for a Sunday morning is using using a little bit of the signage so that you can kind of get on board to this Facebook live stream early, and then, of course, the little alert that when it starts, all that kind of stuff. My just a shout out to April Bell. April has been a real support in helping us figure out the best way to put these live streams together, to put together our podcast series, our Facebook page, and even the streaming live that'll happen today at 11 down at church. April's giving us a hand with that too. So we keep trying. Shout out to April. We keep trying, April, to get this right. We'll master it. We'll master it one of these days. Okay, I got to admit, so as we're gathering together today for, and this is I think I can say this with some sincerity, for the majority of Americans today, as we move into this beautiful fall day, there is just a sense of relief and a bit of lightness. I can't admit to saying all of the weight of the strain that I've particularly experienced, and I'm sure other people have experienced at such deep levels, has been lifted completely. But certainly, as we all watch the democratic process unfold, as so many people went to the polls in record amounts, we have seen a turning in sort of the way in which our collective community begins to craft a way forward. So I don't know what the future will hold, but clearly it feels like there's something warm and beautiful on the horizon, and that's helping all of us kind of soften a little bit. So I want to celebrate that for those of you who feel like this is a day of celebration. Obviously, for those who wanted 4 more years of our current president, it's a struggle. I remember what it was like in 2016 when the candidate that I had longed for didn't win the election. It's a tough one. It's a tough pill to swallow. Yet at the same time, we're all one big country that is trying to explore the possibilities of our democracy and liberty and freedom for all. So quite a day. I hope you're feeling some of that too. And if you're not, I'm sorry. We'll work this out. We'll get through this together. So anyway, glad to have you on board this morning. Gonna spend some time today, kind of reflecting on the capacity of what's best in every religious experience, not just our own religion, but what is the best of the religious experience. And I would say that as we gather together today and kind of pause for a moment to enter into the best kind of religious experience that we can, given the pandemic, right? We're required to physically distance from each other. So there is this sense of having to nurture something deep and religious in our lives using this format. One of the reasons why I explore themes like I do together with you on a Sunday morning is that the best of the religious experience is, if you will, a full-throated expression of the human condition. That's really what I think the heart of religion is about, this capacity. And I say full-throated expression because it's often bringing language to the emotions we're experiencing, the world that we're interacting with. It's this expression of the human experience that then allows for a sense of awareness, the capacity for a change of heart, or a softening of heart, or an opening of heart. It allows for introspection, revelation, seeing things in a new way, a capacity for forgiveness, the act of seeing, well, this is not a path I want to continue to go down, and so I'm going to release from that path and move into another one. This act of forgiving others, forgiving self. That's a possibility in that space. The capacity for communion, to feel to feel bound to the other, right, in a meaningful way, whether that other is neighbor, enemy, foreigner, someone on the other side of the world. This sense of being interconnected is at the heart of the religious experience as well. So all of that is why we do this. And I don't know about you, but with a little bit of pandemic fatigue sitting in, I have to remind myself week after week, why is this important to do what we're doing right now? Why is it important that you're here? Why is it important that you log on during the week and pay attention to this moment together? Why is it important that you share some of your ideas and feelings and experiences? Why is it important that you're taking this moment of pause to just simply dive into a moment of awareness that allows you full-throated expression of what it means to be human in our time? That's really why I think this is an important time together. In some ways, religion, in a way, and this kind of religious experience, if you think about it, it literally functions like manger. That origin story of the birth of Jesus in the Christian tradition, it all happens in a manger. There's this small place, this kind of quiet place, this off the grid place that holds potentiality, that holds agency for transformation. That's what I want you to think about when you think about why this time together matters. That it functions like manger, like small holding place that has capacity to create something greater. You can hear that same imagery in the mustard seed story, right? That faith is like a mustard seed, this silent seed planted deep within the soil, in the earth. And in that embedded earth, the seed takes root and then creates the greatest shrub of all that can somehow be home for all the birds in the air. That imagery that you see folded into the Christian tradition and into the biblical narratives is just a reminder of how something so small, like your moment this morning, something so small like the quiet, still heartbeat of faith within you, has capacity to affect something greater. That is what I want to pay attention to today a little bit, just to focus on for a moment in time. And to do it today, I want to start with a little bit of a kind of a meditation based on a poetic writing of Lang Leave, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but she wrote a poem called He Stayed, and I'm going to change the gender to she stayed, but I'm happy to share this poem with you. And today I brought with me a seed, which I'm going to use, because that's the image I want to use today, is this idea of the way in which faith functions, our time together, and these moments function like seed. That your soul seed, so to speak, has this kind of unimaginable potential to create something beautiful. And sometimes we lose sight of that. And I think today's a day, especially when we think about what's possible as a nation and a people, to remember why this small experience really matters to us all. I'm going to read this poem at the start today, and I didn't prepare you by telling you to get a seed, so you can use the one I'm holding today and kind of imagine that you too are cradling that seed. It's an avocado pit, because my grandparents grew avocados down in Southern California, so I have a soft spot in my heart for avocados and avocado seeds. So let's take a couple of deep breaths today. feel the capacity for renewal, maybe that's starting to swirl in the fall air, given where we're at as a nation and a people, or maybe where you are at as you think about, where might these new openings as a collective lead you? Just bear that seed for a moment. Let us sit still with it and then listen to this poem this morning. Just take a couple of deep breaths to ground yourself in this small experience that we share. And as we collectively hold this seed today as a metaphor for the vibrancy of faith, a poem by Langleaf. She stayed. She stayed just long enough for the winter to thaw, the season to yield its first flower. She kept her promise to me. For as much time as it took the sea to tire itself out, kiss the last raindrop goodbye, and send it back into the heavens above, she held on and on like the morning star, marching bravely toward the inevitable, like a person drowning, desperate for something to hold. She stayed. She stayed just long enough to make me think that she would never leave. She stayed just long enough to make me think that she would never leave. Today, gift of life, we gather together. And we know sometimes we kind of lose sight of the seeds of faith that are inside of us, the spirit that sometimes gets overwhelmed by all the busyness of life, all the challenges of life, all the stresses and the strains. We lose sight of that deep and abiding kind of gift within us all. And so today we reclaim our connection to that small and almost tiny mustard seed within. Let it ultimately be the heartbeat that guides us into each new moment. Amen. Thanks for sharing that moment with me this morning as we kind of breathe into this conversation together. I wanted to kind of look at with you for a minute, at particularly in the Christian tradition, the way in which I think this idea manifests itself. And I also want to acknowledge that it's not just in the Christian tradition, it's in most religious traditions. You can find this same theme in a Buddhist koan, right? A puzzling small phrase, that's what a koan is, that holds some greater mystery. That the phrase itself is very simple. It is almost like, you just pass it by without a second thought. But inside that phrase in Buddhism, particularly the koans, invite you into this grander experience of life. And, there's a few of them. I remember that one, what is the sound of one hand clapping? That's it. That's the koan. But it holds inside of itself some truth within that religious tradition that it's trying to allow out, right? Allow to grow, allow to blossom. And that koan stays present with you. This is the link to the poem. Its intent is to stay present with you long enough so that you trust it will never leave. That's the beauty of a koan. You can find it as well in the poetry of Taoism, beautiful poetics that are extremely simple, and yet are an invitation to see something like magical or mysterious in every drop of rain, every quiet sound of the river stream, every crackling of twigs beneath your walk as you journey into the wilderness. The poetry of Taoism is another place in which something mangers a new reality. Something has capacity like seed to bring about something great and beautiful. And faith is, in a sense, trusting yourself to that tiny experience. It's like a microcosm experience of what can be a macrocosm, something greater. That's partly what faith is about, right? It's allowing yourself that journey into that smaller space, in trusting that it will guide you into something uh, more beautiful, wonder filled. Um, you can also see it, I think, in the Hebrew tradition, which is so linked to the history of the people of Israel as they travel this arc of history, pulling out of Egypt and slavery, wandering in wilderness, finding a new way to be a collective together, landing in a new territory and all that that brings and the struggles that that brings. In a sense, it's like their history, especially in the Hebrew tradition, holds a greater story for us all to seek wisdom and understanding. Um, so you see it in every religion. How do you see it in the work of Jesus is what I wanted to also focus in on today. And clearly, you can see it in the parables of Jesus, that a parable is like holding a seed, small enough that it can, fit in your pocket. I mean, you could carry it with you. It can be with you long enough so that it never leaves. A parable can function as an opening for you into something better. So just simply using a parable like a koan um, is a way in which you entrust yourself to the promise of this seed or this potentiality that manifests itself in such a small and intimate way. And that's what I'm telling you, I think, is the best of the religious experience at some level, is this capacity to kind of dial yourself into that core seed moment, that experience of that, and then dial yourself back out again, like breathing, right? You breathe into that, you hold it and are held by it, and then you breathe out. If you're going to be a religious person and you're stuck at home or in your pod, that has capacity for you. So you see it in the Jesus parables. You also see it in a lot of the healing stories, in the teaching and kind of the wisdom teaching of Jesus. You see it there. Over and over again, you find that in the ministry of Jesus, in a sense, he is constantly raising up that capacity, not inside the religious institution of the day. In a sense, saying, look, to be religious is not your capacity to master a complex religious system. He doesn't do that. He engages in small conversations, in small moments with people who are often on the margins, and says, there is within you this kind of dynamism of capacity. And as people kind of are alerted to that, they kind of wake up. They can see in a new way. They can hear in a new way. They can walk in a new way. In fact, if you look at most of the healing stories in the Gospels, it's not really about one blind person receiving their sight or one crippled person being able to walk again. Those stories are metaphors of how one individual is like can be transformed, so we understand that that is the capacity for all of us, right? That I long to be able to see with new eyes, to see my neighbor with new eyes, to see myself with new eyes. I'd be so critical, so self-critical. How can I do that? How can I walk in a new way? How can I listen to each other and the world in a new way. It is this, they function like these very minor experiences with major implications. And that's what I want you to see. I think particularly those of us who have been studying the book of Mark have seen it over and over again in Mark's gospel. There is in the Mark gospel study that we're having, there are these three blocks in Mark. The first block is Jesus kind of breaking down the way in which people understood the character of the religious system of the day by moving across the lake. So he's constantly moving from one border to another, and he's really mixing it up with people who you shouldn't be mixing it up with. He's causing problems with the people who are sort of formally in charge of religion of the day. So he's shaking up the tree a bit, right? In the second section is a journey section where he's always on the road with his key followers and the crowds that gather around him. And it's like a teaching piece. It's trying to say, look, what does this new way of life look like? Let's practice it together. And that's the teaching piece. And one of the things that the Mark class gets a kick out of is that really the people who follow him most closely don't actually get it, right? The disciples themselves just can't quite figure it out. At the end of that travel section, we meet Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus is the last healing act before Jesus then concludes kind of his ministry portion and journeys into the heart of religious power and political power and economic power in Jerusalem. It's that, you know the story about Palm Sunday. He enters into Jerusalem. Before he does that, we meet Bartimaeus, the last healing miracle. And Bartimaeus is a nobody. He's not really religious. It's a Gentile name, so he's Gentile. He's blind. He's a beggar. He's just by the side of the road. And yet it's Bartimaeus who all of a sudden awakens. So think about Bartimaeus as sort of the seed, right? This small person in a moment in time awakens to the reality of who Jesus is, entrusts himself to that. His eyes are open. He tosses off the only cloak he has, and he joins the movement of Jesus in a sense. And it's this moment, which is a pinnacle moment in Mark's gospel, that transitions from the whole teaching piece into Jesus' entry into Jerusalem. This capacity for that which is not insignificant, I don't want to say that, but that which we don't always notice, can hold for us the capacity of promise and hope and opportunity and joy and engagement beyond imagination. And that's exactly what happens in the Bartimaeus story. And it's exactly what I hope will happen to you. And it's exactly what I hope happens to me as a religious person. That's why we are here. And that's why, between you and me, we should be here every Sunday. Right? We should use these times as our centering moment, week after week after week, so that we can journey more fully into that experience. Another way to think about it, I think, is maybe if it's the way in which you think about it from a physics standpoint. I think they call it the butterfly effect. You've heard of the butterfly effect? The butterfly effect is, I think it goes something like this, right? When a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world, it affects something grand, potentially on the opposite side of the world. So the smallest of occurrences can have huge capacity or effect on the world. I think that the classic definition of it goes like this. It says, minute localized change. You got that? Minute localized change. Think of it as manger, seed, koan, metaphor, parable. Minute localized change within a complex system in which we all reside. So minute change in a complex system can have this large or grander effect. Like dropping a pebble in water, right? It's just one pebble in water, but it begins to ripple out, the butterfly effect. I guess what I would encourage you today is to think about your small moments of quiet prayer, your small moments of gratitude, small moments of interaction with a loved one or neighbor, minor moments of just attending to the wisdom of your faith tradition. Even this moment that you share, think of it as that butterfly moving its wings. And know that what you're doing is deeply important and that it has capacity in a complex system in which we live to initiate some kind of greater change or capacity. And if all of us function that way, that to me is the real power of the religious experience. So that's my hope for you today. I'm trying to think, do I have any notes? No other notes. I don't want to reduce it down to like the political process, but we even saw it a little bit in that process. This idea that we all worry about whether one vote really matters, and the answer is it does. And I think it does not just on the results of an election, but if you think about the way in which the ramifications of one individual taking some level of responsibility for the collective democratic process, what does that really mean? Right? What does that create? So as we continue to, in a sense, be stuck, this pandemic's not slowing down, especially for the winter. And I'm anxious that all of us are having to go another round of kind of committing to physically distancing and masking and not interacting in large social groups. I mean, we're all kind of forced into this time. Let's use this time to pay attention to that deep seed that resides within. And it might not require all your time, but it does require that you visit there. And with that, I finish with the poem again and invite you to maybe just take a couple deep breaths and hear this poem in light of the conversation we've had this morning. And after I read the poem, I would invite you to share on the chat any of your kind of personal reflections so that other people can hear what kind of came up for you as you thought about this idea of the religious experience being like manger or seed for you. A poem by Lang Leave called He Stayed. We'll use the term she stayed today. She stayed just long enough for winter to thaw, the season to yield its first flower. She kept her promise to me. For as much time as it took for the sea to tire itself out, kiss that last raindrop goodbye, and send it back into the heavens above. She held on and on like the morning star, marching bravely towards the inevitable, like a person drowning, desperate for something to hold. She stayed just long enough to make me think that she would never leave. It's a beautiful piece of poetry. I started following Lang Leave on Instagram because her poetry is just so energetic and short. It functions in some ways, like I said, like a Zen koan, right? It's an invitation to tend to the small place inside and allow it to find agency, capacity, new frontier, to alter your historic trajectory as an individual or as a collective, That's the power of faith. That's the power of religion at its best. And I hope this time together has reminded you and maybe given you a few tools to navigate the way in which your seed of faith uh, what sits within and is tended to and is cared for each and every moment of your life. Amen to that. All right, all. So thanks for sharing this time together this morning. A couple of just quick announcemements. Of course, use a little bit of this time if you'd like to shout out to each other with any insight you have, or whatever it happens to be. It doesn't even have to be a grand insight, right? That's the beauty of this. It can be as small as a mustard seed and still have this potential to have an effect that has capacity in our world and with others. So please take some time to do that. Today, I'm leaving here literally and hustling down to church. And of course, today is our first drive-in worship service. I will do a different talk down there today based on the maidens who are trying to keep their lamps lit, waiting for the bridegroom to come. It's a pretty cool story. So we'll do that. There'll be some music, readings, prayer, some traditional liturgical pieces, and you'll get to listen to it as you sit in your car and as we present it. So that's happening today at 11. Also, confirmation is going to meet down at 11 o'clock in the courtyard and then lounge. They're going to try to stay a distance from each other, but that's going to happen on site today. So that's happening today as well. Our teen peer-to-peer ministry just met yesterday, and we've got, I think, 4 or 5 teenagers right now who are functioning as peer ministers to each other, developing the kind of programming they want to kind of help create community together. That's all led by Cheryl from the Graduate Theological Union, so we're really delighted with that project as well. I believe the Taizé service will soon be posted, so watch for that. You can use that kind of in your evening meditation time. I am delighted this evening to be interviewing our last podcast presenter with Soul Forum. And I was just really impressed, particularly with the last 2 podcasts that he did, particularly given our time around racial issues and kind of the way in which democracy works. So very intriguing stuff. And tonight I'll interview him, and that will be next week's podcast. That's a note to you, April. So you know that's coming. What else is going on? I think one more thing. Project Peace, as you know, we partnered with them and looked to them for some support. I had a long conversation with the new person that Project Peace was able to hire that will start to put together more and more ways in which we can seek justice and kindness in Contra Costa County. They have been, if you will, kind of brokers of those experiences, mostly in the Oakland area. And now they have a person who can focus on that in Contra Costa County as well. So I'll probably bring her on board one of these days to meet you so you kind of know who she is. But I'm really looking forward to ways in which we can, in an intergenerational way, work to continue to do justice in our community, particularly in the next few years going forward. How exciting is that going to be? So, all right. That's it for today. My final shout out, of course, is a deep sense of gratitude today for all of our veterans. This week is Veterans Day is coming up. I believe it's on Wednesday. I'm doing a talk as they gather together for a sort of digital version of the Hillside Memorial celebration. So to all you veterans, our deepest gratitude for, giving of yourselves for to defend this country and to defend this call for liberty and justice for all. We know that's a complicated journey, and many of you came home from those battles with either physical or mental scars, and you have to live with them for a lifetime. We owe a debt of gratitude to all of our veterans and in any ways in which they've served, and as well to all of those who have fought for peace in our time through protest or through advocacy or through political means, so that we do not have to solve conflicts through war. So this is a day to kind of mark that's coming up, and to make sure we're filled with gratitude for those who have served this country. All right, all. Take care. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.